everybody, hope you're doing well and welcome back to another video. In my last wrap up, which was for August, at the end I read a Paul Tremblay book, and then at the beginning of September I read 2 more Tremblay books, and I thought I would do a review of the 3. Now ready for sort of like Halloweeny time, if anyone was thinking of reading these books. Spoiler alert, I didn't like any of them, so I personally wouldn't really recommend reading them, but they do have the spookish vibes, and maybe at this time of the year it might be more enjoyable, and obviously my tastes aren't everybody's, it's just this is my thoughts on the books. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the reviews. The first one I read was The Cabin at the End of the World. I ended up giving this 2.5 stars. I rounded up to 3 on Goodreads, but I thought it was alright. It started out really good, and I was like, I'm so intrigued and I want to know more. Basically we're following 11-year-old Wen, and she is just like staying outside of this cabin that is in like the middle of nowhere, New Hampshire. And then this seemingly friendly man comes up to her, Leonard, and they start talking, and but then instead things just sort of spiral a bit, and she runs inside to her dad's, Eric and Andrew. They're a gay couple, love that. And then as the book ensues, it's sort of like Leonard and his friends like tormenting the family in a sense, and they think that they need to be there, and they need this family to do a certain thing or else dire consequences can happen. That's what I'm going to say about the plot, because there is obviously more to it, but I don't really want to give anything away. I think what I liked the most was the tormented family of Wen. I liked sort of like her like adoption story, and also the dads, Eric and Andrew. I really liked their characters, and just sort of like their past as well that comes into the book. What I really loved about the book was the fact that Tremblay doesn't use their queerness as like a plot point or like the main thing about them. It's just a thriller book about a family, and that family just so happens to be a gay family, and I just thought that was very good, and I like that inclusion. And I don't really read like many horror thrillery books much at all, but from my experience, most of the genre isn't the most diverse, but it was just quite nice to see that, and that is why I ended up rounding up in the end. I listened to all of these books on Audibly. I got them through BorrowBox, through my local library, and the narration by Amy Landon, I believe, I didn't particularly like, because a lot of the characters' voices that she does are males. I just feel like the way she was doing them was just not that pleasant to listen to be honest. And yeah, I think this book definitely started out very strong, but then it just slowly just went down and down and down as it developed. But I do know a lot of people really like this story and this book, so hopefully others do more than me, but it weren't for me. Then secondly, I listened to The Pallbearers Club. I ended up giving this 2.5 stars, but this one I rounded down to 2 on Goodreads. This one was, again, started out quite fine, quite enjoyable. I was intrigued. It is set out like a memoir by one of our main characters, Art Barbara, and he is sort of like writing it in his 40s, and it details his life from like teenage years up until then. And he is sort of like a loner a bit in his town and school, doesn't really have many friends. He has like scoliosis, and this is like a major like issue for him, and some other like health problems. And he sort of thinks up this idea to start a pallbearers club where he goes around to like be the pallbearer and just like pay his respects in a way to like at funerals where there is little attendance because the people are like homeless or like old and unknown and stuff. And it's here that he meets our other main character, Mercy, who is like quite like cool and edgy, but she's also like a little bit weird as well because she likes taking like photographs of the corpses. And yeah, there's sort of like more happens, and I did quite like the friendship between the characters, and I just liked how it was starting, how things might have developed. I also did like the like 80s era references. I thought was quite good. I really love the 80s, and I love reading about that era. But like the main plot point of this memoir-ish book is that there's like a vampiric like horror part to his memoir, but Mercy believes he is misremembering and misinterpreting what actually happened and what went down. So she is sort of like writing in the margins, and after each chapter she has like a section where she sort of like says how he should improve the book, or the memoir. I think this was this general idea was the best part of it, but again it fell really flat, and it was quite a boring book for something that's meant to be sort of like vampiric and, you know, a bit like what's gonna happen. I just felt very, very bored, and not to be rude to Tremblay, but I feel like the main character Art is quite a lot based on himself, and he even says this in the acknowledged author's note bit at the end, and I just wasn't interested in these sort of things that Art was interested in, like heavy metal bands and all these like failed bands he was in, and there's just a lot of like rehashing, and that goes the same for the horror elements as well. It's just sort of quite a lot of the same thing happening over. And yeah, I didn't particularly like it, but it wasn't terrible. So yeah, 2.5, and then I rounded it down because there's a part where he's putting up flyers and he puts up 123. I'm just like, 123. That is just disgusting. Like, how can you do that? Like, no, you do 120 or you do 125. You don't do 123. That is just no. So yeah, I really that just irked me so much. Just like that weird odd number. Just make, if I'm thinking about it now, it just makes me feel ill. And I know it's like sort of my issue, but it's just not right. It's not right to do that. And also there's some other like cringy parts of the book, but whatevs. And then finally, I listened to A Head Full of Ghosts. I mean, I'm giving this 3 stars. This was, to put it bluntly, the best of a bad bunch in some sense. But I did think this had the most appeal to a lot of people. It was my 3rd book, and it is the final book by Tremblay. I do not believe I'm going to read any more by him because I'm just not a Tremblay fan, and I would prefer to spend my time reading new authors that I believe I could get more on board with. But beside the point, Head Full of Ghosts follows Mary, and she is, I believe, in her 40s or maybe 20s or 30s. I'm not 100% sure at the moment, but she's talking to a journalist because it's the anniversary of a TV show being aired, and this TV show focused on Mary's family. And we sort of like get transported back in some sense to when Mary was 11, and her older sister Marjorie, who is 14, she starts to deal with some like mental health problems and just sort of acting strangely. It's possibly she has schizophrenia, or like a condition similar to that, but it's nothing is actually explicitly mentioned or highlighted. But other people in her family believe that she is possessed, and the father, under the guidance of a Father Wanderley, goes through a process where eventually he thinks that it's best to have an exorcism to get the demon out of Marjorie. And then sort of like a TV show comes and like sort of films the family and stuff. And that is quite a lot of what happens. There is also a lot balancing on the fact or not fact of whether Marjorie is faking it, because the family are dealing with financial struggles. So this is sort of like an ongoing question that we don't particularly get answered. I was intrigued by this fact and the fact it balanced on that, but as the book went on, I just was getting less engaged with the characters and the story, and I just kind of didn't really care anymore. But yeah, I think the sort of like possessed person situation was done alright. Then there is some sort of just like grossness and unpleasant reading experiences, which weren't the best, but I get that is just part of what Tremblay was trying to do and trying to make it out to be, that she is a possessed child. And it's sort of, some scenes and some parts was a little bit like the Exorcist film, like rip off in some sense, but not fully. But yeah, this book was fine. I didn't particularly dislike it either. I just thought it was meh. Alright. If you like any of these books, then that is absolutely amazing. But these are my thoughts. I just wasn't that impressed. But if you are thinking of reading a spooky-ish book for the Halloween season and you have these at hand, then by all means give them a chance. They are all on the Borrow Box, as well as most of Tremblay's books, I believe, where you can get them through your local library audibly for free, which is great. And yeah, if I was reading them physically, I probably would have DNF'd it earlier, so thankfully I stuck with it. But anyway, I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope you have a nice morning, evening, night, wherever you are in the world, and I shall see you very soon. Bye.